all the people who have done so well, why they are so humble.
You treat people as equal and they also treat you at a fundamental level. Everyone's equal. Culture is the invisible glue that holds an organization together.
Right? So how you maintain that sanity and how you maintain you being you.
We are not already perfect. So I think it's a reflection of how you like to lead your life to keep them simple.
If you given a chance, you want to delist in India or I want to list in India?
First, the decision was kahan karna hai list. Said I can bullshit when required, but when I don't know something, I say I don't know.
Firstly, how did you come into travel business?
Okay, let's start from the beginning.
Great. So can't be a better day or can't be a better evening to celebrate our 9th year and stepping on 10th year of our journey, which is building university living. And that's the reason I started this living pod by Saurabh. Idea is to bring guests, bring content which is real, which is not scripted, and also from the people who are not just giving gyan but have lived it up, have built it up. So today, this is one of the most celebrated podcasts for me, and I will be honest, I'm bit conscious. I'm bit, there are butterfly in the stomach, but I'm sure the guest I'm talking to, he will make me feel better. And rather than me introducing, as I always say, I'll ask my guest to introduce himself and then I'll build on it. So over to you, Mr. Kalra. Should I call you Mr. Kalra? DK, Deep?
Deep is fine. Anything but Mr. Kalra.
Okay.
You can call me anything else. Okay. So thank you, Saurabh, for having me here, and especially on this special day. So firstly, congratulations to everyone in the University Living family. 9 years is no mean feat. Many startup companies don't get to see this. And I firmly believe if you get over the first 3, 4, 5 tough years, after that, things get better and better. And from what I've learned, things are really looking good. So congratulations and wish you much success. So I'm Deep Kalra, founder and chairman of MakeMyTrip. And it's my absolute pleasure to be on this special podcast.
Thank you so much. And thank you for not only offering your office, but also making me and my team feel so special. And I believe that's the common pattern I see. All the people who have done so well, why they are so humble. Is it pretentious or is it a pattern which I have seen among all the successful startup entrepreneurs or all the personalities?
So I really can't speak for others, and I'm not sure who all you've met, but I can only speak for myself and tell you whatever it is, it's very genuine, because I think first generation entrepreneurs, particularly those who have built businesses in the internet economy, IT economy, have typically done it on the back of what they've learned, what they've seen, their experiences, and willy-nilly they treat everyone in their own company, people who they meet, at a fundamental level as equal. I don't think there's any other way the culture is built, and this is very different from past generations where you had family businesses, etc. So in the earlier generations, I think the young generations are quite egalitarian, but in the older generations, willy-nilly they had a kind of a different kind of rapport, and even I think people who worked for them gave them that kind of pedestal. So I think it works both ways today. You treat people as equal and they also treat you at a fundamental level. Everyone's equal, and it really doesn't matter how who they are or what they're doing.
So you mentioned about culture, right? And I got an opportunity to do some research, and when I was on your corporate website, and I've spoken with few of your team members, and many of your team members, by the way, have either worked with us or working with us, or probably have like known to us, whether it's Rajneesh, whether it's Ashish, so many so many of people have moved out from or probably come out from MMT, and they're doing so great when we were here and even after that. So talking about culture, and there were 6 C's I came across. Why are those 6 C's part of your culture? And it seems that it was very consciously being decided, like C's and 6 C's culture. Is that the case or it just happened?
No, I think a little bit of wordsmithing happens, and that is when HR people and others get creative. But let me tell you, let's talk about the biggest C of them all, which is culture. I think culture, and you can call it by any other name, you can have compassion and creativity and collaboration. All of these are very typical qualities. But at a fundamental level, I think culture is the invisible glue that holds an organization together. Culture is what you feel when you enter an office, when you are working there, without it having to be spelt out. So imagine you're a fly on the wall in a company, and that same fly on the wall can go to different companies and later come back and give its report. Fly on the wall means you're an invisible observer. That is the best way of sensing culture. So if you can go and spend one whole week in an office, you can be in the meeting rooms where 2 or more or 10 or 20 people, you can be in different discussions and you're invisible, you will pick out culture. So I think I've yet to see a great company being built without great culture. Cultures can be different, but there are some fundamentals. And the fundamentals typically are, like I said, collaboration. So it's always, if we win, it's a team effort. If things go wrong, we will sink or swim together. But a good manager will always deflect the glory when something goes well. So you get some big award, you reach some big milestone. Any good manager, and when I say manager, it could be a CEO, it could be a CXO, it could be a VP, will instantly say it's due to the team. It's a natural reaction. It's not something which he or she is rehearsed. And when something goes wrong, a good manager will put his or her hand up and say, the buck stops at me. And, it didn't go right because of me. So I think that is a wonderful feeling for the team members. It's very empowering for team members to feel that way. And these are few of the elements. The other element, which I think a lot of people don't talk about often, is the building of trust. The building of trust with your team only happens when you're straightforward and honest. And I can tell you, character gets tested only in tough times. So when you're going through a really tough time, as all startups will, and you're having near-death experiences, how honest and transparent are you with the team that things aren't going well, we are going to go through a tough ride, but trust us, this will, we'll still come out on the other side. I think it comes down to that. And I don't know if everyone is doing that, but I can tell you companies who do that genuinely win the loyalty for a long time to come. So I'm really proud of the fact that a lot of our people have stayed with us for really long, decades, multiple decades. We've had people with us for the entire now 25 years. In 3 weeks' time, we'll be 25 years old. And there are so many people who started with me in the beginning of the journey and are still there and have done really well. Many people stayed with us through the toughest time, went through till IPO in 2010. After that, chose to do something else. And many people have joined recently. But if we find someone good, we seldom let them go, because then we hold on to them. Because finding a good person in this very competitive world, and a good person for me is a mini entrepreneur, is really hard.
Wow. I mean, you have answered so many questions and there are so many layers which I want to go deep. So you talk about culture, right? And then you talk about, it also reflect you as a human being. Right, and really want to go deeper on, and you are deep, right? So you want to go more deep with you as a person, wherein I heard so many things, and not many people, and I'm not trying to scratch, or probably try to, because you're on the podcast, so I want to say good things. Not many people in startup or someone who have built a company which have gone IPO, not in India but internationally. People are talking great things about their main leader. And because I know, with little experience of building a company for 10 years, most of the leaders, either they try to be good to everyone and then lost plot. And then there are people who are, try to drive things. And in that, probably they become someone which they were not, because it's not easy, right? So how you maintain that sanity and how you maintain you being you?
Okay, it is a deep question. I think what I didn't mention, Saurabh, and I should have, that culture is actually another way of describing culture is, it is a reflection of the founders or founding team's values. And that's what it is. So when you say culture of a company, it has to be from the top. It has to be top down. People have to feel that. Only if founders genuinely believe that, or the founding team believes that. And then every person you add to your team should add value to the culture. And that means you should firstly believe that we are not already perfect. No one is. And everyone who comes in can add their own value, their own style of working, their own best practices come in, how they attract more talent. And so I learn a lot from a lot of the new people who have joined the company, for sure. Coming back, I guess, two parts of the question. The second part is the easy part. I think keep it simple, keep it straight, keep it honest, so you don't have any pretenses. So you are who you are. And truly, I think that's the only one I know. I learned recently about another young company, or in the startup phase, someone joined us from that company and said there were 3 sets of accounts. Obviously, I won't name the company. And one set of accounts was for the board. One set of accounts was for IT. And the third set of account was the real story, which was only for the founder or founders. And I said, that's crazy. I would go mad even trying to manage 3 sets of account. One is hard enough. Wow. So I think it's a reflection of how you like to lead your life. Do you like to complicate things, or do you like to keep them simple? And keep it simple. When I'm interviewing people, I genuinely try, after assessing them, and I'll tell you what I look for in an interview, I genuinely try to desell the company. And people said, that's crazy. No, I want to tell people the bad part of the company.
Yes.
There are bad things, and I want to tell them there are some things which, you better be ready for. This is how we are. So if this doesn't work for you, it's better you know it now. Because when people join and they're not the right fit, the company also loses out. We think only the person joining loses, both sides lose. Typically, it takes about 6 months to realize this person's not right. Then you spend another 6 months trying to make it right, because you are the one who's hired. So you try to make it right, you try to fix it. So you lost a year, then you part ways. So also, one of the biggest problems that happens is the ripple effect. So by getting the wrong person in, you have upset a lot of people in the company. You piss them off, whatever. They've said, what kind of guy have they got? Who's the boss? Ye, wo. And then that person leaves. So you have caused a lot of disruption in that company by getting a wrong hire. So try to get it right. And the way you can only try to get it right is multiple interviews, test for the right things, test for fit, test for culture. Never ask things on the CV. That's a given. What will you ask someone who's done that and all? There's nothing you're going to gain from that. Never do a ref check with a reference who's been provided. That's silly. Obviously, they're going to say good things. So do it in a smarter way, and let people know that there are things in your company which they may not be aware of. Let them know it. Let them know that there'll be times when they'll be required to work nights. And without, if there is a crisis, everyone is here together, and there will be crises that will come. So I think, or let them know that, this is the culture in terms of even grooming people, etc. And we do expect leaders to spend a lot of time in mentoring and bringing up people. And I think you'll get a good sense also when you meet people multiple times and then multiple people interview them. And then you compare notes without biasing each other. That's your best chance of getting to know you right the person. You had another question, Saurabh. I think I've forgotten.
So just to add here, and that's a masterclass on hiring the people. And it's coming from someone probably who have hired more than 10,000 by now in last 25 years.
Well, not personally so many, but sure.
As a company.
Yeah, we are now, if we look at all our group companies, we are probably about 5,000 people. I've obviously only hired some, but initially I used to be involved in hiring everyone. Now I'm only involved in hiring senior people. Even now as non-executive chairman, Rajesh calls me in whenever we're looking for a senior level hire. We have someone joining just round the corner. And I spent a lot of time hiring that person, doing ref checks personally, because I want to make sure, because I think that's one of the biggest decisions you make in companies. That, and typically product prioritization. What are you going to build first? And that we'll talk about, maybe what consumers and customers can teach us. But hiring is key. Hiring is huge. No amount of time is too much time spent on hiring.
So you mentioned about hiring, right? And and the fact that you are, after 25 years and after probably like 15 years back, you went public, right? So how easy it is to hire when you were bootstrapped, when you got your first set of funding, and probably when you went public, and then there's a pull factor, right? So what were the position before 2010, and then did things change, or after public, like when when there's a pull factor, and then when everything going so well, there's natural complacency, or some kind of easiness sets in.
Sure.
So how you ensure that it remains.
So Saurabh, it's a great question, and the reality is that hiring when you're bootstrapped is very, very hard. Who wants to join a bootstrap company? Think about it, right? So fundamentally, you want to hire someone who's really good. Someone who's really good, by definition, has many choices. So they have many choices in the companies they can join. They also can do their own thing. But let's say they've decided they don't want to take the big risk and do their own thing. They want to join a company. Typically, good people will join very good companies because they are good at it. They can command, that kind of position, that kind of package, whatever. So you will not get the typical hire. So be very clear. And I think, Saurabh, the chat we were having before the podcast, I think you understand that because you've hustled yourself. You've found how you can attract good talent. So you have to look for hustlers too. So you have to look for people who are entrepreneurial. And very often that has nothing to do with their degree. So be very clear, you're not going to get the blue chip degrees up front. That's fine. It really doesn't matter. Some of the biggest contributors to our company have not had any blue chip degree. They had a good degree. They had a good, definitely if you're technical till now, everyone had some good ComC kind of degree or engineering degree, or they learned on the job. But if you are non-technical also, we are not fussed about IIMs. In fact, almost we don't want to hire only from IIMs or only from IITs. Reason being, the next level of institutes, typically people are hungrier. Also, something which very few people realize is that there's a very fine line between a top blue chip university and the next level. The fine line is how that person felt on the day of the entrance test. And we are not testing our entrance test. Please bear in mind, do not test for intelligence alone. They test for intelligence and speed. While the first one is very important, speed at work is not that important. Whether you take 1 hour extra, 1 day extra, even 1 week extra to build something spectacular does not matter. At the end of the day, it's more important you build something great. So actually the right way of testing is open book kind of exams, because today all the resources are available to you. And that's why a lot of colleges in the West and even some of the more new age colleges in India are oftentimes saying, this is your assignment, take 1 day, take 2 days, it doesn't matter, but come back with original thought and come back with something which is very unique to and apply yourself to this problem. That's the real world. So find people who are street smart, find people who don't freak out in the face of adversity, find people who are collaborative, who are willing to work with you together to build something special, and who are excited about your dream. As a founder, you'll have your dream. They should be excited and they should be able to add to it. I think if you find that kind of person, then you're much better chance of attracting that talent in the early days. And why should it change just because you got money? So obviously it became much easier for us when we got venture funded after 5 years in 2005. Post-IPO, actually a funny thing happens. Post-IPO, a certain kind of person doesn't want to join you because obviously the best of wealth creation has already happened. They feel you can still keep creating wealth. And if I look back, I think our best year or our best 2 years have been post-COVID. So actually it happened in year 23 and 24. Who knew? But that is the time when everything came together. The company reached a certain scale, a certain market share, a certain brand appeal, and economies of scale started kicking in. So you got growth plus profitability together, and that took time. But post-IPO, a lot of people who are got one eye on the wealth creation, nothing wrong with that. That's why you join a startup. They actually feel that, listen, maybe I'll join a company pre-IPO. People do it all the time in the West. A lot of people take pride in saying, oh, I joined Amazon before IPO. Oh, I joined Facebook before IPO. I joined Google before IPO. I know some people who have timed it so well that they've joined 2 or 3 companies, got stock options, made a lot of money, and then they're doing something else. So I think you'll find a different kind of person to come in post-IPO. Of course, it's easier, but don't change the fundamental of who you're trying to hire. Suddenly don't get into the mode, except in some functions, I should call out. I think in certain functions like finance, you don't want very adventurous people. You want smart people, but you want people who play by the book. So you want solid people. Also, as you scale up, you need specialists. So when you need specialists, like you don't even think about a position like an internal auditor earlier. Post-IPO, you'll get a new position, which is investor relations. Then your corporate team or your corporate comms team, communication team, suddenly you'll have one person, then you'll have that person is senior, will want to hire more people. Also, when you reach a certain scale, you'll actually need someone to look at government affairs. something which only founders do initially, you also do later, but you want someone with you because it sucks up a lot of bandwidth. So I think these specialist positions will come later, but the guys who create the magic, the product people, the marketing people, the tech people together, the business people, when an idea is really born and how do you take it from ideation to launch, those people, I think you want to still get people who are hustlers and want to create something special all the time.
You mentioned hustler, and then before that you mentioned delegation, right? In this era, and including me, there's a neon sign at University Living which says humble hustle, right? And even in my Facebook or LinkedIn profile, where I guess I've written hustler, right? And in this world where startups glorify hustler, and then there are a school of thought which are talking like work-life balance, and then there are school of thought which are even talking 90 hours a week. What's your view on that?
So I'm very clear, there is no work-life balance in the initial phase of being an entrepreneurial company. If you say there is, then I think you're mistaken. Yes, you can get flexibility of timings, but you'll have to put in, I think, why 90? I think there were many months in a row, maybe years, where we were talking about actually, we worked 6.5 days. So we had half day off on a Sunday. And when it's survival, it's survival. And I think if we didn't do that, we wouldn't have come out. So God knows how many times we put in 100-hour weeks. So when Mr. Narayan Murthy, who I respect a lot, is being beaten up on social media for saying 70-hour week, I think people have not understood it. They've not understood there's a time to do that. And I do feel a lot of people are too fussed about work-life balance too early in life. I think the 20s and 30s is all about busting ass, and it's totally fine if you have to do it, if you want to build something special. If you like work-life balance, it's fine. Find the right kind of company that gives you that work-life balance. But if you want to build something special, it's not going to come easy. I don't think, or you want to be part of something special, which you're building from zero, I don't think work-life balance really exists in the early days. Later on, of course. And how does that come? That's the other term we talked about, delegation. That comes when you start growing and you're saying, yes, I do want better work-life balance, but guess what? I'm willing to delegate. I'm willing to let people run with the ball. Then you are able to get it. So I would say first 5, dare I say even 10 years of a startup, there's very little work-life balance.
Thank you, Deep, for making my work easy. Not only we are twinning on pink. Also there are lots of commonality, and it's my privilege to compare me to you. We are DU product, which we love to the core, which you just mentioned. We just completed 9th year. You are 16 years ahead of the journey. So much to learn. And then I guess for the longest time, for 5 years, you were bootstrap. We were also for 5-6 years we were bootstrap,
sure.
Right? And we have one more common aspiration. We also, and I guess that's a pseudo aspiration for me. I don't know why, but I always say that I want to go to IPO in international markets,
nice.
Right? What's your take on now? Because there were time when every company want to go IPO public internationally, but lots of Indian and international companies are listing in India bosses.
Yeah.
So what's your take on now? If you given a chance, you want to delist in India, or I want to list in India?
Sure. No, things have changed a lot. So in 2010, I can tell you, even then it was a big decision. And it's one of the rare things where my board was split down the middle. So when we decided to IPO, obviously everyone got excited. In fact, it's a funny story and it might happen to you. So sitting in our board meeting of Jan 2010, Sanjeev Bikhchandani was on our board then and is a dear friend, philosopher guide. Naukri is actually one of the absolute amazing people I know. So Sanjeev told us, guys, he looked at the numbers and typically he says, you guys are ready to IPO. And he said, what? We were shocked. Rajesh and I were shocked. Rajesh was CFO, I was CEO. I said, seriously? He's saying, yeah, this is the kind of level we used to report both in dollars and rupees and all because we had some international investors. He says, this was the level at which we IPO'd 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago. So you guys should consider IPOing.
And what was that level?
So we were 400 million in gross revenue going to 600, growing 50%. And in revenue terms, our commission was about 40 million going to 60. And that time the dollar was probably only about 50. So obviously a very different kind of time, 2,000 crores or whatever, that kind of thing. So I said, really? And we looked at it and he said, yeah, we called a meeting in 2000 in Feb. And in August, we went and listed in 2000. And he said it will. So first the decision was, kahan karna hai list? Half the board said India and half said US. And I was totally confused because I really did not have a point of view on it. And, I think I can smooth talk, like you said, I can bullshit when required. But when I don't know something, I say I don't know. So I said, guys, I really don't know. And I need 1 week. Let me do some research homework. Let me come back. Let me this thing. So I took a few days and I spoke to 6 or 7 people who had experience in listing in US and India or India. So all kinds. I reached out shamelessly. I just reach out whenever and I said, bas ek question hai aapse. And I reached out to Nandan, who I knew vaguely then. Nandan Nilekani, now I know very well. Again, one of the most incredible people. So Nandan put me on to Mohandas Pai. Mohandas Pai was CFO when Infosys went public. I'd always admired Infosys as a great company. So Mohandas spoke to me. I didn't know him. And now again, I know him well. And I always call it out. He was so kind with his time. He gave me 20-30 minutes and told me pros and cons. Then I spoke to a classmate of mine who was on the board of Bharti Airtel, the Pulak Chandan Prasad, India's top investor, Nalanda Capital. So that time I said, Pulak, tell me, and he gave me his experience. I spoke to Onmobile, which doesn't exist now, but they had listed overseas. So I spoke to a bunch of companies, 5, 6, 7. I reached some other foreign company also. Kaisa experience hai Nasdaq pe, India mein, NYSE pe, Sara. Came to the conclusion that in India, we won't get value. Very few internet companies were there. Actually, it was only Naukri. Yeah. Interestingly, InfoEdge also was not pure e-commerce at all because their money they got by salespeople getting checks. We were their customer and their salespeople would come, we would sign up. That time, individuals were not paying them much because they were taking services for free. So we realized that e-commerce, B2C out here, market's not ready. We listed overseas. So much has changed in these 14, 15 years. Today, since the past 5 years, Indian market has really opened up. One of the biggest benefits you get from IPO is definitely branding. So today, a company looking to list, I would say definitely India gives you the full this thing. And the Indian market is also matured. People realize this growth model is very different from the traditional model. For the longest time, the same analysts who cover IT were covering in e-commerce, and there is very little in common.
Right.
IT is an enterprise. IT has more in common. ITES and IT is more in common in manufacturing.
Right.
Because it's that kind of thing, right? You prepare a product and then you kind of sell those product or services. E-commerce is a very different animal. So I would rather compare it with retail than something else. So I think now, but delisting is not easy. We are also getting great value in the market. We are. Of course, this is after Mr. Trump. Things have changed a bit. But these are cycles. But our CFO keeps evaluating it and seeing, does it make sense? One thing I can tell you, having dual listing is very hard. Painful, lot of time, lot of money. So dual will not happen. We'll have to then do one. But that is their decision to take. I chair the board, and when they will bring me the proposal, I'll evaluate it. But right now, I'm now in the opposite position. I'm on the board to say, okay.
You're questioning more now.
Yeah, so let's see. Yeah.
I mean, you've been kind, and I'm happy not to be a global brand than to be at a scale as you are at. And so where I'm coming from, so someone like us, who is a global brand, wherein, I mean, it's a very global destination as well as sourcing market. So someone for us, should we aspire to go IPO Nasdaq way or India way? And I know that's a very internal question.
It's a tough question to answer. I think it depends on the timing. I think it will depend a lot on what percentage of your revenues are coming from which market. If you are getting an overwhelming percentage of your revenue, let's say it stays at about 35 or whatever, then there's a good case for Indian listing. You get great branding here. India listing is cheaper. Your center of gravity of your organization is in India.
Right.
Managing, really it's Bombay and here, and you'll be able to do it quite easily. But if your aspiration is truly that, listen, if I pull the string 10 years, what will we look at? And let's say you can list in 3 to 5 years. I don't know. I'm just assuming. Then at that point you say, okay, but what will we be later? And you realize that no one country will give more than 15-20% of our revenues. Then you have a very good case for listing overseas too. Right. But keep in mind, it's tough.
It's expensive.
It's expensive physically too. I can tell you for the first 8 years of listing, actually almost right up to IPO, 32, 33 quarters or whatever it was, Rajesh and I were physically present. Maybe we missed one quarter here or there, but we went physically for a brutal roadshow to the US. It also distracts you from the business, like it or not. So I think keep all those factors in mind. Not so easy. So I think India is a very, very exciting option. It'll get only better.
You talk about travel and you're into travel business.
Yeah.
And still, when you travel, you say when you need to travel every now and then, and I'm talking from all the entrepreneurs and all the team members, which feel that founders are traveling. They are on the stages and awards and, I don't travel business class or stay in 5-star, but, most of the people who are doing well, it's very fancy on the other part of the side, right? And firstly, how did you come into travel business, right? And from there, do you like travel? And even now, when you have traveled almost all the world. I know I got an opportunity to talk to you some event, and you were talking about some country which I have never heard. I'm like, okay, this is a guy who have literally traveled the world. So what's your take on, and how did you come to travel business?
Okay, let's start from the beginning and we can talk about corporate travel. So firstly, I absolutely love travel. I love seeing new places, but I love travel when I'm on leisure. I don't think business travel is something. Initially, there is a high. And listen, I started off as a banker. And when you have your first job as a banker.
That's another thing we have common. Yeah. I also studied a banker.
Okay, nice. So I started off as a corporate banker. I was with ABN AMRO. And the one thing they do is corporate banks, they treat you well. You're a foreign bank. So I think very early in life, you got the fancy travel. So our trainings were in Bombay. We were put up at the Oberoi Towers or whatever in the early days. So you're 23-year-old. You're put up there for weeks. You have what I tell people, it can spoil your mind a bit. You have monogrammed letterhead waiting for you in your room. Monogram matchboxes, because I think the lobby manager was known to one of my colleagues in ABN AMRO. And you travel comfy. Sure, it was economy. You don't even dream of business, but you live so well and you get used to that. But that wears off very soon. That charm is there for very little. There's no charm left after that.
Right.
And I cut to much later, the IPO kind of travel or the road shows, they are brutal. They're brutal because you do 8 to 9 meetings a day of 1 hour each and you're speaking non-stop. Typical meeting, it's a 45 or a 1 hour meeting. You're speaking for 40 minutes. Some questions are coming. Then your CFO is speaking for 15, 20 minutes. You're answering questions. The sad part is you're saying the same thing again and again. So you're only learning one little thing from some investor who asks you some interesting question.
Right.
But it's also monotonous, but it's really boring and it's really tiring.
And you need to be in a high energy all the time.
It's exhausting. Most of the time we had some Sualin with us or Kanthil with us most of the time because you get parts speaking so much and just sipping hot water. That's all you keep doing. You eat your lunch in a car.
It's like a working
in between. Yeah. You leave your hotel, at 7:30. You start at 8 and 5, 6 you end. Then you go to the airport to catch a flight to the next destination. You probably sleep at midnight and you're up at 6 a.m. And you do that 5 days non-stop. For IPO, it was 2 weeks. It is exhausting. There is no fun left in it at all, I can tell you. वो high बहुत जल्दी चला जाता है.
What drives you? What continue to push so much?
Well, that was a job. I used to oftentimes say there's only one part of the job I don't like, and I would tell my investors when they got to know me, and which is investor marketing, and they'd say, why? I said, not because I don't like you, but because it's a waste of my time. I'm boring, and I wish we could record this and just play it and just take your questions. And today I think that dream has come true because maybe I wished too hard, because in COVID that came true. In COVID we were doing it remotely. And after COVID, a lot of the investor marketing has moved virtual. And now everyone has said, oh, good investors say, this is great. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. And just be effective. We've seen you once. We don't need to meet you again each time. So I think COVID has also helped. Now coming to the good part of travel. So leisure travel. So it's been a passion long before MakeMyTrip started. And it's a shared passion between me and my wife. And I think that really, really keeps us going because we love exploring new places in India, overseas, wherever, but new cultures, experiences. Of late, the most amazing experience for me was Mahakumbh. And
did you go?
Oh, absolutely. And I had to go because I wanted to see it for myself. And
you need to feel that energy.
I went right after, the Stampede actually. Yeah. We were there on Mahashivratri day. We were there, on Basant Panchami day. So big day for the snan. I'm not very religious. I'm God-fearing, but not religious. But I was still curious. So we went and we really enjoyed it, and it was different. Last year in November, I went to Banaras for Dev Dipavali, which was another experience. So in India, there's some amazing experiences, and I want to do more of them. And overseas also, they're great places to see. So I love learning about new cultures and people and seeing it for myself. And I think the beauty of travel, and that is why I think it is technology proof, no matter what happens, you can't take that experience away. People say with the augmented reality, I think with augmented reality, it will whet your appetite for more. Like you'll really want to go there. Till you're not breathing that air and you're not eating that food and you're not talking to that person who is a local there, it's not the real thing. So I've traveled a lot.
In last 3 minutes, you have mentioned which is very counter to each other. When it's corporate travel and when it's investor roadshow, you are saying, someone can virtually record it and play it, right? At the same time, I am meeting lots of investors. I'm also a person who is more physical, but more physical,
sure,
right? And the moment we got an option to do virtual, I'm like, no, I'm happy to travel to us and meet you in person because you get the real vibes, right? Yeah. So one aspect you are saying that lots of things can be done virtually, and the other way you are saying about AR and about going and feeling it, right? So my take is, and it's a little it's a pseudo understanding. I believe we are not far away from our avatars. We are not far away from your. I got
humanoids.
A chance. Absolutely, I got a chance to use that Pro Vision. Right?
Yeah,
I'm
me
like,
too.
This is too amazing, right?
Yeah.
And then people were questioning me that no, okay, you can see it, but what about feeling it?
I chatted with a humanoid with real eyes and rubbery this Sophia,
right,
who's on Jimmy.
Right.
So she was here at a conference at this Synapse a few weeks ago. I chatted with her. We were quizzing her in Hindi. My wife said, no, this is all scripted, and tried many trick questions. Great answers and eye movement and rubbery skin. So it's crazy. Yeah. Suddenly that robot becomes very human-like.
Absolutely.
But I don't think there was a contradiction. I get your question, because even there I said, the smart investor says we have met once. After that, why are we wasting your time?
So we can be more efficient.
Also, there's no chemistry. You're not absorbing the atmosphere. There you will be sitting in the same meeting room as you are here. The meeting rooms, same wood paneling, this thing and all. Right. But when you are going for travel to new places,
and when it's like meeting one-on-one connection is different. Then
correct. Like you and I now spend good time. We had met at some conference, but now we're spending good time. The next time, we can probably do it on the phone or virtual or whatever, if it's too inconvenient. But one time you struck up a rapport, then after that you can do it. So great efficiencies in business. Absolutely. We have a very large office in Bangalore. Redbus is entirely in Bangalore. But we do the business seamlessly over Zoom. And yes, after COVID was over, we got everyone back to office. But every now and then, some people are working virtual. So many meetings now because, in fact, government meetings and even hearings.
And
hearings are happening, and it's such a good use of time.
Right.
Yesterday, there was a early morning meeting which they gave very little notice at the GMDA. I'm on the board of Gurgaon Metropolitan Development Authority. It was 8:30 and we got to know it was a sudden meeting, but they allowed virtual. So there were people from Chandigarh, there were people from wherever. I couldn't make it in person, but we joined virtual and the Chief Minister was there. So I think it's very practical when it comes to business solutions or business meetings, but leisure you can't substitute.
Because you're biased towards travel.
No, I don't think you
can
get the feel. What about
Gen Z and Alpha, which are literally living on gamings?
They are living on gamings, but you ask them where they are spending their money. They're spending their money on eating out or traveling to new experiences. They want to go there. They want to do that paraglide. They want to do that bungee jump. They want to go and this thing. They want to drive up to Ladakh and go and do cycling there and do crazy things. So I think all of that, at least I don't think travel will come under threat of that sort. But who knows what lies in the future. If you, can feel a lot of these things, it'll be a very sad day, not only for
for humanity, I would say.
I think it'll be a very sad day because then आप बैठे रहोगे एक आर्मचेयर पे लेटे रहोगे और वही मतलब उसी में मजे लेते रहोगे. I think
and that's not real.
I wonder what will give you real joy then, because they talk about this era of abundance coming, where you'll have so much abundance that you won't have to work beyond a few hours a day. Most people will have enough money. And what will you then do with your time? I actually think people will seek out more and more into cultural experiences, into experiences which please the senses in a very different sort of way, into spiritual following like the sidebar we were having. I think people will seek that because you get bored and jaded. There's a term called jaded.
Jaded, yes.
And you get blasé. When you have too much of something, how much will you eat or how much will you drink or how much will you party? Then you're blasé. You're saying, now what next?
You will not get your dopamine.
It's scary, and that's why people move to other forms of this thing. It's scary. So I hope people will keep traveling.
What's your take on education? The current education. You talk about travel, right? And that's like you're expert for travel.
It's a subject I'm very passionate about. I think education as we have it, we have some phenomenal institutions in the country, but too few. So let's talk about school education. I think the curriculum has to change and is changing. One of my friends is at the forefront of it, where he is advising state governments how to change it. This is Ashish Dhawan with Central Square Foundation. And one of the key things that they do is they work with state governments saying, if the curriculum does not change, we will produce generations and generation of kids who will have a degree, but they will not be employable. So it's a fact that most of our class 5 and 6 school kids from government schools cannot actually, they can rattle off things, but they cannot comprehend the class 2 stuff. Yeah. So it needs a complete overlift overall. And I think that's happening now. Slowly, some states already, Bihar has changed, Delhi has changed, I think UP is changing, Uttarakhand. So a lot of them are looking at it and are evaluating it and are changing because they're realizing there's no point, we have to change with the time. College education, you mentioned, both of us are DU products, both of us have done eco. I think the curriculum hasn't changed in the longest time significantly. It's not moved with the time. And that's one of the very big reasons why I joined early days with Ashoka. So I'm a very proud founder. I got in at the early days because I realized that their cause is to build a liberal arts institute which is relevant with the times today. I have met so many graduates. I go there and I do some guest lectures every now and then, but I'm meeting graduates from Ashoka all the time and interacting with them. And I can tell you that they are so much better off than I could have been as a DU graduate because they are being taught stuff which is very relevant. They have a lot of focus on reading and writing. So firstly, great communication because that's key. And a lot of focus on analysis. So all the information is out there. Today we have too much information. The real skill is, can you analyze it and make it and understand and comprehend it and then explain it to other people and use it for your own, whatever you're working on, your own original thought then. You've now read about the great authors and the great books. How is that helping you? So can you really put that to practice? And I can tell you a lot of good colleges have come up, but we need hundreds more. We have too few good institutions. Maybe we need thousands, but we definitely need hundreds. In many Ashoka meetings, we say we need 100 more Ashokas. So it's great to see some of the new age colleges come up and actually do a good job and not just give you a degree, where you can buy a degree. And the bar, all good colleges, you'll see the bar for admission is very high. And you cannot do anything to get admission. So it is purely merit-based.
No, absolutely. In fact, this is my thesis. So the company I'm building is on 3 theses. One, even higher education or study abroad is not only pandemic-proof, but also World War III proof. Because no international university will survive if they don't get international students.
Sure.
So that's my first thesis. Second, even countries like India and many emerging, even the government, and there are lots of progressive, movements happening. But with currently 40-45 million Indian students, and by 2035 there will be 95 million students in India, even with the best of efforts, even with the best of progressive government, we still need more institutes.
Absolutely.
And eventually with travel becoming easy, we are where the finances are probably more available, and education is one of the most important investment of parents or students in themselves. So they continue to go abroad.
Absolutely.
And when they continue to go abroad, housing is something which they need.
I couldn't agree with you. I think all 3 pillars are perfectly, absolutely a rationale for what you're doing. There's no end. In fact, a 4th one, if I can add, and you probably actually spoke about it earlier, is that we are building world-class institutes. So a lot of foreign students are coming. We see that at Ashoka actually coming to India. So India, from being a supply market
Right.
is,
It's
or a
becoming a
source
study hub.
market, is
Yeah.
actually going to become a recipient market.
Absolutely. And Mr. Modi have that, study.
I just feel one thing we should figure out, and I don't know how you can help with that, but I do feel a lot of our students in India are naive, their parents are naive, and they are just going overseas.
Because
for
of
any
status, because of.
And I can tell you,
totally
if
with
you don't go to a good college outside, I
there's no
always
need.
don't go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're going to go waste a lot of money, not get a job overseas today. Like today, a non-US passport holder is not going to get a job in the US unless you're standout brilliant in computing or in consulting or in banking.
With you.
No one else is going to give you this thing because they have that talent there.
With you.
So if you don't go to a top place in UK, maybe 4 or 5 really good colleges, that's it. After that, don't. In Australia, I think even less. So in US, of course, there are 30, 40, maybe even 50 good universities, and that's it.
In fact, one superpower which we keep telling to my team, that because we're not into admission and we're still part of global mobility, we have a right and all the means to say, don't go to UK or don't stay with Indians. I tell everyone, if you're going abroad and staying with Indians, it's better not go. Rent out a big penthouse in Greater Noida and party there, right? And it's similarly, if you're not going for education but only immigration, right? You are actually not only putting lots of time, but all your life earnings into race.
So therefore, all the more reason we need better colleges out here, so we can absorb people here and they'll get their jobs here. And why rush abroad then?
Right. Coming back on your, your life being, or your last 25 years and last, it's all about milestone, achievement, glory. What about failures? And I believe that life of entrepreneur is full of failure, more failures than achievements. It's just that the achievements and awards are so big that your average is much better than your failures. What's your take on this?
So firstly, I don't think even failure, if that word, it should be a bad word. I think failures are the only time you're learning and improving. When you are succeeding and you're winning, you're not learning. Your head is up in the clouds. Whether it's business, whether it's sport, whether it's anything else, we all know that. You win it, you just like get.
But yet, no one like to fail. No one like to lose in sports. And
no, I think in business, people, all smart people, are accepting it. That listen, this is part of it. There's a big culture in the valley which is fail fast, right? So try new things, keep failing fast. I think we can't. It's an extreme to say let's celebrate failure. No. But let's acknowledge it, that it's a reality. You will only have success if you've had some missteps. Learn from those. Don't make the same mistake again. So don't fail on the same this thing, right? But it's about new product. So new products, how will you come out with if you can't test them? So build a fantastic A/B platform, keep testing, test for 1, 2, 3 months something. If the conversions or the funnel's not improving, shut that down, try something else. And that something else will come. There should be a pipeline of something else. These are product ideas, feature ideas. How are they coming? Either from the brilliance of your people, but largely they should come from customers. You should be able to pick up signals that customers are telling you, synthesize them, put them together and build a product and a feature for that and keep trying. And so you should be able to understand what customers are trying to say. That's called insight. It's not called what customers say is not always what they want. Right? So the insight comes and then you're trying something. It might fail, but you still know you have to solve that problem. So try it in a different way, try it. So there's a lot of iteration. So I don't think failure is a bad thing, and we've all had so many. We've had near-death experiences.
I was about to come to that.
So many.
From you started in .com, you went through COVID.
Yeah.
I guess, and this is, I keep telling my team, and I also keep, reminding myself that we've been fortunate. We only have gone through COVID, and even COVID have become an anti-COVID story. And we realize that we are not only India to abroad, but internationally. But with you, I guess 3 near-death experience I have read about.
At least.
At least. How was it? When people feel that you're a founder, you should have an answer to everything, right? Investors feel that, it's your baby and we invest on you, right?
Yeah.
How you feel on those situations? Because that's very lonely, and also that's very scary.
You're absolutely right, and I think only founders will get this. So firstly, I think having a sounding board when you're down and out it's very tough when you're down and out. You can't say, oh, this thing. Only after 2 or 3 like these, you say, okay, listen, we got through that. We'll get through this also. The first one is the worst. 2001 to 2005 was really hard, especially 2001 to 2003. We really, and it's been spoken about enough, we didn't have more than 2 months salary or rent. So it was very hard, like, to keep going. And the hardest thing is not for yourself. The hardest thing is your people. Because you might say, okay, I'll figure it out and I have enough to keep going, or I have some, my spouse is earning or whatever else. But what will happen to the people who may not have the kind of degree you have and may not be able to get another job, etc. And they are following you blindly? I think that really, I've said it before, but that truly, I remember, that's what worries you. That's what keeps you up at night. It's a fact of life. That's the reality. If that doesn't keep you up at night, then my God, then you're made of some other stuff. For me, it's always people issues which keep me up. So I was nervous about that. But having sounding boards, and I was very lucky to have 3 guys along the way who were willing to be shoulder to shoulder, take cuts in salaries, convert that into stock, what I offered. That stock was nothing that time, right? It was just a pipe dream. And so became co-founders in true spirit. And I think if I didn't have these guys, I don't think I would have come out of those. You typically then throw in the towel faster. And you had someone who said, no, we are onto the right thing. And it's almost like a fact check. You're saying, yeah, am I smoking grass, or is it true that we are onto something? Conversions are improving, albeit slowly. Things are getting better. Repeat is happening. Few people are coming back talking about us. Let's push it another month. And then you get that validation from someone who is equally smart. And he's saying, हाँ यार, बात तो सही है. तो एक और महीना करते हैं. To get that, and to get it from not one, I got it from 2 guys, I think was huge. Because then they're really your brothers in arms, your comrades, you're in it together. So if I was to start again, which I won't, do another startup.
Did you get my script? Did you get my script? Because you're answering like, you got all the questions.
No.
You're answering it so smoothly.
Even if you sent it to me, I didn't read it.
You're not even, you're making it so easy for me. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to ask this, right?
No,
and you're answering this.
It's logical.
Wow.
It's logical. So I think these guys, without them, wouldn't have done it. For sure. Couldn't have. But if I was to start again on a venture, my formula would have been 1+1. So I think the right team size for me, guys have done it with 10 founders, 9 founders, Mindtree, etc., etc. But for me, the right team size is 2. 3 can become tricky. And these are my own experiences over life. And 2 with very complementary skills. So if I brought these very same skills to the table, let's say business and marketing and general, but not tech, but understanding enough of product and design, those are just innate things. You get design innately. I'm very, very anal about design and, the devil's in the detail. I can understand product, I can understand consumer. Then the other person should be everything tech. Or the other way around. So I think complementary skills where you don't step on each other's toes. Also, I think one person who's happy to take the front, like be in the,
face of the company. Body, yeah.
The other person saying, I genuinely don't like this. It has to be genuine.
Right.
ताकि उसमें stress ना हो. So if you can get that, I think that would be the right mix for me to restart. And I'm lucky to say, kind of got that in life. Like for the last many years, Rajesh and I were running it like this. Now Rajesh is in the limelight and he keeps shying away, but I think he's getting very good at
used to it.
Yeah, he's getting
How
very
did you
used
meet
to it.
Rajesh?
It's a crazy story. So Rajesh was hired as a replacement to our VP Finance in 2001 when that person was quitting because he was getting double the salary from Enron. And I said, yeah, don't go right now. And he was a great guy too. I said, abhi to shuru hua and all that, like it's been barely a year. And he said, I'm getting double the salary. So literally, I can tell you without name, it was 10 lakhs, he was getting 20. And I said, I can't match it. Yeah, 10 ke 12 kar sakte hain, I can't match that. So he said, I'm going to join. And then Enron spectacularly blew up. In the interim, I found a headhunter, Onam Consultants. They found me various guys. I interviewed Rajesh, liked him instantly. And I said, great connection and vice versa. And then in the meantime, nothing without drama. In the meantime, Enron froze accounts before this guy could join because they were going through this thing. And he called me in panic and he said, yeah, he was literally like, I want to come back. And I said, but we've offered a job. He's saying, no, I have to come back, this thing. So I said, okay, I'll ask the person if he's put in his papers. No. If he hasn't, maybe there's an opportunity. So there and then in front of him, I called Rajesh I remember that so clearly, from my landline in Okhla. I called him. He was on his mobile and he was driving. It was 6:30 in the evening back from office. He says, I was in Malcha Marg. His office was there. And I said, just pull. He pulled over. And he said, what's happened? And I said, have you put in your papers? He's saying, why? I said, no, I just want to check. He's saying, I have. I said, okay, thanks. That's all I want to know. When are you joining? He said, after 2 weeks. I said, great, thank you. Put down the phone. And I told this guy, I'm sorry. But Rajesh was very clear, and he said it openly on a forum just 2 days ago when he got the award from Ernst & Young for Entrepreneur of the Year in Services. He said it. He told me, we'll sink or swim together. I said, times are tough. He said, that's okay. I've taken the plunge. We'll sink or swim together. So that's the kind of guy you need. And knock on wood. Where is wood? Okay, I'll knock on my head. I'll knock on my head. And
so, absolutely great, great story. And in fact, so blessed to have the same kind of founder. Me and Mayank are together for 23 years.
Wow.
Met in Delhi University first year. He was smart. He realized that, he will not get a degree or earn lots of money. So he quit or he dropped out and he joined Raman sir, into Kotro and BPO.
Raman Roy?
Yeah. And
wow.
Raman Roy is on our cap table as well. So
wow.
Very blessed to have lots
Raman is one of the most incredible people I know. We both quit GE Capital on the same day, 1st April 2000.
So 1st April is pretty significant
and
for
he
you.
Started Spectramind. And we were going through a very tough time, and I went calling on him in Okhla Phase 3, and I said, Raman, and he was so nice and generous. He's saying, doesn't matter, you come here, we'll start a travel thing, we'll take over your company, we'll start a travel thing, don't worry. And it was very gracious of him, and he's someone I really hold very, very dear. And we're very dear friends now. I didn't take that option because I still wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
But then in TIE and all, we are very dear friends. I wish we would meet more. But he's one of the most amazing people I know.
Right. So blessed
if Mayank joined him, he would have learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Blessed to have, as you say, a very strong sounding, board. And also, going back to Mayank, I guess wherever we reached so far, it's very, very early stage, but it's all because of him, and same, probably I like to be in limelight. He like to be, I say I'm a face in the body, and absolutely complementary skills.
Lovely. I hope I get to see him someday.
Definitely, and would love to host you there.
Sure.
And I know it's let's wait for either air taxes or let's wait.
Whenever I'm coming that side, I'll keep it in mind and we'll try.
Would love to host you because would love to show how we're rolling out.
Sure.
Still early age, but thank you so much for your time. I know holding you up for so long is like dreams of lots of content creator.
Not a problem. I have to say, great questions.
Thank you.
Genuinely, really good chemistry. So I can see you've got everything going for a great entrepreneur. And so I wish you every success. I know Shailendra in your company, and that's why probably this happened.
Yes.
And great asset because he's very, very, he can add value to any company. But I can see now why he's so excited about university living. So you're on to something special. And I'm glad you're taking out time to do a podcast. It's not easy. So I can tell you in my first 10, 12 years, I think till post-IPO, even 2-3 years after that, I couldn't do any of extracurriculars. Then I started getting more involved. Industry stuff, yes, because someone has to do it and that's really connected to the company. But I just couldn't manage to do other stuff and think beyond, what we are doing and building up the company. That happened only later. So you have the, I think, ability to multitask, which is a very good quality. So,
no, but in fact, it's coming hard way because I believe I'm not a great storyteller. And, the way I've been listening to you, how important is for a successful founder or entrepreneur to be a great storyteller, and especially in today's era?
I think we have to tell stories for all our constituent stakeholders. So not just investors. Investors, yes. And when I'm saying tell stories,
storyteller for everyone, yeah.
But you have to see people. That elevator pitch is very important. So in 1 minute in the elevator, can you tell me what you do? Because that's why that typical that
you
phase
get another
came.
1 hour. Yeah.
You meet someone amazing in the elevator. So what do? So in 1 minute, you leave an impression. Or in 5 minutes, you can tell that story or a TED Talk. So I think it's worth rehearsing your own story and telling it for anyone. But I think also for our own people. I think because the vision is very important to keep reminding. So every month we have a 1 week immersion for all new joiners. And that immersion I have designed personally. I work very closely with HR and I'm passionate about it. I've missed one immersion in decades because I was out, I think, too long. And I really told HR, why did you plan it when I wasn't here the whole week? So 4 days in office, morning to evening, meeting different leaders, getting a different aspect of the company, and then 1 week on the field, 1 day on the field. And everyone, even if you've joined in any remote part, in fact, we've got guys from overseas to come and do immersion with us. And it's really important because they feel the company. That's when you go and tell the story. Rajesh tells his version of the story. I tell my version. Everyone in the leadership team goes and tells what they are doing, but also their own version. I think it's really important that you can tell that story. And even when you go to business partners, I mean, when I can tell you, when we were going to hotels initially and trying to tell what we are trying to do, it was story. And I was knocking on many doors, or with homestay owners, or with airline. The first airline, Air Deccan, I remember the first low-cost carrier connect, I had to tell Captain Gopinath this story. He heard me out for half an hour in Bangalore. Me and Keyur went. After half an hour, he said, I haven't understood anything what you've said, but I think you're onto something. I'll talk to my CTO. And he was such a nice man to say, you talk to my CTO, and we got the API very quickly from him. Otherwise, if you can't tell a story, then I think that's the job of the founder.
But then, as you mentioned about, culture, and you mentioned about 1 week immersion program, right?
Yeah.
And like not every company and not every stage, even if you want to do the right things, you can able to afford lots of things, which it's
that started
important.
much later. That formal thing only started, I think, in the last 10, 15 years. Before that, everyone who came, you spent enough time with them. There weren't so many people joining. I'm also upset why every month we have 40, 50 people joining.
Well, because there are people leaving, and
there's turnover, so there's churn. I'm not happy with seeing these large batches, I'm saying, because I don't want to grow with people alone. So clearly, I think, and in COVID that happened. Culture can't be built on that two-dimensional screen. So people who joined in COVID never felt the company. So therefore, not getting people back to work is terrible. They should come in every day.
Totally with you. Totally. Especially the people who are joined,
startup
first
नहीं
time.
बन सकता वैसे. Big companies.
And big
that's
maybe,
fine.
see, कोई आपके साथ like किसी की पहली जॉब है, दूसरी जॉब है, right? Then the first, second, third year of
बिल्कुल
job.
सर, कहाँ से आपका connect कहाँ से बनेगा?
Done, sir.
Super.
Done. Thank you so much.
So nice.
Thank you, to everyone. Keep following us, and more than following, as I always say, we're not doing for news and views. We are doing for right content, right reason. The reason is that how you can learn from each other, right? And even if you like it or don't like it, please do share your opinions, your comments, because the superpower. I'm not trying to monetize it. We are not doing for news and views. We're only doing for two reasons: that the right content and the right people should come and talk about their stories and tell the real things. Because in this era of everyone trying to become content creator, everyone trying to have story, the real stories and real people are missing. So thank you so much.
I think you can branch out and diversify and say university living and learning.